It's time to say goodbye to hold music and say hello to fast customer support with Service Cloud. With trusted AI and data working together, you can skip long wait times and deliver efficient, personalized service right away, all while keeping support costs low and more customers happy. Reimagine your customer support with the #1 AI CRM for service. Learn what's possible at salesforce.com/products/service.
Brooks Running has a new shoe for you runners out there. Did you hear that? Better turn up your volume. In fact, turn it up to the max. Introducing the all-new Ghost Max. It's got all kinds of things to make your knees and ankles feel protected, like Max Cushion, Max Soft Landings with DNA Loft V2 foam, and Max Smooth Rides with their Glide Roll rocker. Feel better on your run with Ghost Max. Learn more at brooksrunning.com.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. Kieran, I've just explained to you, I'm trying to keep my voice down recording this pod because we had some people around for lunch yesterday, and it's now tomorrow morning, and two of them are still here. One of them's asleep under the table, basically. So let's not have too many surprises, or if Finley could keep the squeaky toy work down as well, that would probably be for the best. How are you, Kieran?
I'm very good. I mean, we're recording this on Sunday morning, so I'm already sort of quite quasi-Christmas Eve giddy in terms of England playing tonight. I think I might have to go and take myself off. The Baroness is getting me fed up, me looking at my watch every 5 minutes. So, I think this afternoon I'm going to go off to go and watch Lewis Ladies play Crystal Palace Ladies. I think it's the Women's FA Cup match. Yeah. Or it's its league catch, so I'll pop down there and sort of not irritate the Baroness for an hour or two.
Well, you could take her with you, Kieran. She was so impressed with the corporate hospitality last time you took her to the dripping pan. How's have you opened your advent calendar this morning? Was there some quinoa behind the door?
No. She's got me a dark chocolate one, which is my favourite. So I've got a choice of. If it's not 70% cocoa, Kevin, frankly, I'm just not prepared to go down. Yeah, I'm not prepared to slum it.
I think Uncle Terry said something similar, but it wasn't cocoa. Our first question comes today. It's because it's a questions pod, in case you haven't ascertained it, because I didn't say it. First question comes from Chris Solman. And Chris says, are there any tangible financial benefits for teams who have a big local derby in the same division, i.e. through having at least one guaranteed sellout at your home stadium per season, increased merchandise sales, etc., or being more likely to have those games shown on TV? I suppose the simple answer to that, Kieran, would be yes, surely, wouldn't it?
The simple answer is yes, but it can become a little bit more complex than that. Oh. I mean, certainly, Sheffield Derby, Derby versus Forest, at Palace you get plenty of London derbies. You've got us playing there as well. It does add to the opportunity to generate money. So I think we need to look at clubs from their three main revenue sources. In terms of matchday income, first of all, there's the opportunity to, if you've got tiered prices, is to charge. This is going to be your grade A game, and therefore you can get more tickets sold. In terms of ticket volume, the away end is always going to sell out. It's always the first thing that you look at. So you're guaranteed the away end to sell out. And also in terms of hospitality, quite often, you've got local fans who are, in a position where they can do hospitality, and they say, say we're Palace, we're playing Chelsea, or we're Sunderland, we're paying Middlesbrough, whatever it's going to be, and that you're going to get more of a positive reaction. So therefore they can generate more money from that in terms of the prices that they charge. So from a revenue point of view, that's all good. Chris is exactly right. There's a greater chance that the match is going to be picked for broadcast purposes, so therefore you'll get the additional monies there. You then also have to look at it from a cost point of view, and rightly or wrongly, local derbies can get a bit feisty.
Yeah.
And therefore, you've got to say, right, we need to put on extra stewarding costs. We might have to liaise with the police. There'll be a bigger police presence. So your cost base is going to go up as well. And then there's the potential, although I think it is over-egged, that there's the potential for the overflow if there is any trouble and there's negative publicity on the back of that. But overall, certainly, local derbies are winners for clubs. And also if you win that match, you're going to sell more merchandise on the back of it, because people say, I want, it will sell more programs because I want we were talking to Ian on last Thursday show, Friday's show, and it's, you want that commemorative opportunity if you can. Brighton beating Chelsea 4-1 when Potter had come back. I don't normally get programs. I wanted that one though. So there is the opportunity to make additional revenues from this.
I've got about 30 from when we beat you 5-0. If you want one of those. It's just, also, I have to say a big shout out to one of the questions we read out when we had Ian's interview, the programme expert, was from a Brighton fan, which I pointed out, who then tweeted that he'd lured me into reading out that Brighton had beaten Chelsea and Man United. It's like, he didn't lure me. I read it out. It was a question. It's just, we spoke last week, Kieran, because we had a question from a Middlesbrough fan about how regional success is sort of cyclical. And we talked about London derbies and derbies in particular. And it seems to me that the Premier League and the Championship, Sky have kind of found other reasons to glorify matches, if you like. And London derbies for Palace fans don't have the same impact they certainly had in the sort of 70s and 80s. And clubs like Watford, when they're in the Premier League, Sky will go, big London derby, Watford. But for Watford fans, it's not. It's Luton. Yeah. Is their big derby. The same way that Oxford hates Swindon and Reading, but Sky would never tell you that. They won't show those games. So it's kind of like the fans have had to keep hold of their own rivalries, really, because Sky don't kind of understand it anymore, because it's the Premier League that's become their big selling point. Anyway, next question comes from Jack Thompson. Jack says, could a networked group club, City Group for example, purchase a club in Scotland or Wales and use it just to develop players? They've already pushed for B teams and failed in Scotland, so could they sell players to their Scottish Welsh club and inflate FFP standing of the parent club while training promising players in their style in competitive football?
Well, they certainly could do that, and I think this is one thing which they might consider in due course. If we take a look at the City Football Group, it now consists of 12 clubs. It would have been 13, but remember when they tried to acquire Breda in the Netherlands, the fans kicked up such a fuss because Dutch people like an argument. Every World Cup, isn't it? Every World Cup, you get to hear stories about the Dutch dressing room, and it's. Whereas we're very sort of British and polite. The Dutch don't take it too personally. They just like arguing with each other and arguing full stop.
It's a bit of a generalisation, Kieran. But
well, this is based on World Cup. If it happens in the World Cup, it's got to happen in the rest of the world. That's how it works.
Fair, well, not when the World Cup's in Qatar, Kieran. We don't.
Oh, true. Okay,
but, yes. Crack on.
So this would be an opportunity, I think, for Manchester City. And in respect to what Jack was saying, in terms of manipulating transfer prices, anybody who was watching the Argentina versus Australia match last night will have seen Aaron Moy play. I think he's probably one of the better players for Australia in this tournament. I won't mention former Brighton goalkeeper Matty Ryan with his legendary Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. But Aaron Moy was signed by Manchester City from group club Sydney. Which was Sydney City FC, whatever it's called, that's linked to Melbourne City. Melbourne, so I'll upset our Australian listeners there. From Melbourne City, effectively on a free transfer. they then put him out on loan to Huddersfield. And they got a loan fee. And then at the end of the season, they sold him to Huddersfield for around about £10 million. So they made 10 million quid out of a deal on a player. You try Googling this. If you can find a picture of Aaron Moy in a Manchester City football shirt, because I've tried and tried and tried. So this is a player who was at Manchester City for so little time. He's not even got the traditional, pictured at the Etihad, signing up the shirt with his name on the back or just on the front of the shirt, smiling away inanely, because that's what all photographers appear to do when a player signs. And Manchester City made £10 million on the back of this deal, and that contributes towards financial fair play. Could it happen in Scotland/Wales? It could do in theory. I think there would be opposition locally, because Welsh fans and Scottish fans tend to be quite proud. They are. They wouldn't want to be seen to be subservient to an English club, as it were. But from a player development point of view, it certainly does have benefits. And you can see the logic in it, and that's what Manchester City are trying to do with their multi-club ownership model. All of the clubs have the same shirt manufacturer. Many of them are sponsored by the Etihad Airlines as well. So you've got this globalization of sponsorship deals. And in terms of culture of training, development, and so on, that is very much set at the top and filters through to the individual clubs. So it means that should a player move from one club in the City Football Group to another, the acclimatization is far easier, because they know what's expected of them in terms of diet, training regime, and player personal development, and so on.
I've just written down, I've got Dutch people argumentative, Scottish Welsh people proud. Let's see how many we can get through today's video. It's interesting, though, Kieran, as Jack alludes to in his question, most people assume that the whole reason for a group model is somehow, without any evidence or proof, to get round FFP restrictions, don't they?
Yes. It certainly can help, because you can park profits and you can park costs in individual clubs. So, let's say that the City Football Group has, financial overheads or HR overheads or whatever it's going to be. Manchester City, I think, generates around about 80% of the total revenue of the City Football Group. But it doesn't necessarily have 80% of the costs incurred centrally to it. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong, because there's a case for saying, well, it should be allocated equally between the clubs on a vaguely theoretical basis. But it allows scope for creative accounting. That's not the same as saying that it actually occurs. But as somebody that used to teach creative accounting, that was always one of the areas that I would point out to students. So, well, if you want to move money around, that's not too much of an issue. We see it. I'm not going to go at football clubs here, because we see it on a much broader scale in relation to global companies, where why is it that I pay more tax a year than Facebook? It's because it's that type of argument. It's because what you do is that you park all of your profits in countries which have low tax regimes, which encourages a race to the bottom by individual governments, because they say, well, we'd rather have 12% of a lot of Facebook's profits than 20% of little.
I didn't know, Kieran, that you're actually allowed to teach creative accountancy. I thought it was one of those, under the counter things that accountants just spoke about in hushed whispers in the Tesco car park. But it's that.
Well, yeah, I used to teach it as a standalone course for investment banks, and then 2007 came along. Which was on the back of creative accounting, and my phone stopped ringing. I've no idea why.
Maybe you hadn't plugged it in. Is it out of battery? I always felt, as you know, Kieran, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I the 6 weeks I did spend at university, I was doing archaeology, and possibly one of the reasons I didn't last longer than that was I remember saying I always felt very sorry for the T-Rex as a dinosaur. It's very fierce. I was going to say proud animal, but that would associate them with the Welsh and the Scottish people. But very fierce dinosaur, but he couldn't reach his own genitals because his arms were so short. I speculated that was one of the reasons he was so fierce. But there you are. Our next question comes from. Sorry about the cough. I haven't had enough orange Lucozade this morning. James Taylor. James Taylor said EA Sports are ending their deal with FIFA. Will this have any effect on the shirt sponsorship with teams? And also, will clubs receive less money from EA Sports due to the loss of the deal?
I think it can actually work in favour of clubs.
Okay.
So, FIFA 23, which I think is the final iteration of the game, has been very successful, and it has been a relationship which has worked for both parties. But by all accounts, FIFA were asking EA to pay double the money for the rights to the FIFA name. But in addition to intellectual property deals with FIFA, EA also have deals with individual leagues, individual clubs, and players through, effectively, FIFPro, the players' union. So therefore, if there's less money going to FIFA, and they've still got the same marketing budget overall, it could be that, yes, if I was an elite club, I'd now turn around and say, look, you've no longer got the FIFA name. It wouldn't look too good if you didn't have Manchester United's name in your game. Just give us a little bit of extra money. So I think those clubs which are in a position to leverage off this will take that as a positive step. Similarly, if I was La Liga, Premier League, Bundesliga, and so on, say, okay, you no longer lost. You've lost a little bit of allure, and I know it's going to be called EA Sports FC, which just sounds a bit. Yeah. It sort of sounds a bit Sunday League to me. I think the individual leagues and clubs and players could be beneficiaries from this. FIFA are, by all accounts, saying that they are going to create their own computer game, or sort of been hinting at it. But I don't think it's a little bit more than me just messing around on a spreadsheet, creating a computer game with the degree of depth that EA have done. But having watched all 4 episodes of FIFA Uncovered over the course of the last couple of days, nothing would surprise me when it comes to FIFA in terms of their self-confidence when promoting the organisation.
That's one way of putting it, self-confidence. So I was a little bit distracted while you were talking there, Kieran, because I was looking at Smudge in the garden, sitting with her tail in a puddle, trying to work out why she was feeling wet. Interestingly, Kieran, talking of FIFA, I don't know if you saw Private Eye this weekend. We've been talking for the last year about gambling in football and the money that comes to the game. There's a really interesting article in Private Eye saying how FIFA have barely taken any money. I think they've got one gambling sponsor, and it's like in their 3rd tier of sponsors, very low down the list, and not taking much money from them at all. And yet they're going to make record profits out of this World Cup. And it's basically, I speculated that the UK government should realise that it's possible to make a huge amount of money out of football without the income from gambling. So I think that's something we probably will talk about in more detail on our news pod. Our next question, Kieran, comes from Liam Davis. And Liam is a Brighton fan. We're getting a lot of those lately. And Liam says, as a Brighton fan, I'm kind of confused. Oh, there's more. I've just noticed there's more. Liam says, as a Brighton fan, I'm kind of confused as to how the club's ticket transferring system works. Is it purely a money-making scheme by the club, or is there a less cynical reason for it? Do other clubs adopt the same system? Surely when Paul Barber and co are seeing thousands of empty seats, that must be an indication that the system isn't working and people are missing out on seeing the team play due to the high costs. And I suspect, Kieran, that fans of just about every other club who have similar schemes will be asking the same question, because I don't think anything's caused more controversy at Palace in the last 2 seasons as the ticket transfer system and the attempt to make money out of it, which they've now dropped, I have to say, to the club's credit. They've come up with a much, much simpler system of being able to transfer your ticket without taking much money out of your pocket. But it's really caused an issue, hasn't it, Kieran? So I know it's difficult for you as a Brighton fan. You love your club. But is it cynical or is it just inefficient?
Is it cynical? I don't think it is cynical. It certainly has split the fan base,
of course.
And I am very much in the nay camp. So and I suspect that I understand why the club's doing it, because are there additional administrative costs involved? Yes, there are. How much are those costs? I genuinely don't know, but and also compared to other clubs, I think it probably is cheaper.
Right.
If you want to buy a ticket to watch Liverpool at Anfield, first of all, you've got to be a member of the membership scheme.
Yeah.
And I think that is certainly more than I think Brighton charge £30. I'll go into a bit more detail. But in Liverpool, I think you pay, it's probably about 70 quid. And for that, you get the opportunity to queue for a ticket. You're not even guaranteed a single ticket a year. Yeah. So yes, you get 10% off the of merchandise. But given the price of a Liverpool shirt is £70 or £75, what they've done, they just jacked up the prices. So when you get your 10% off, you're still paying more than we pay for a Palace shirt or a Brighton shirt.
Yeah.
I've got issues. So for people not familiar with the scheme, if I'm a season ticket holder, I'm not allowed to transfer my season ticket to anybody during the course of the season unless I pay an extra £20. So for the privilege of having a match kickoff time, I've put this case before on many occasions. Like many people, we've got family, we've got other commitments. The Baroness is absolutely fantastic in that she tolerates my football, but she's not from Brighton. She was born in Edinburgh, and she comes along and watches matches with me. And we've got 2 season tickets together because we like to sit together.
Oh,
just like when you go along, you like to sit with your mates.
Yeah.
So therefore, if she just tried to get tickets on a match by match basis, she'd end up in a different stand, and that takes away part of the enjoyment of the match. But if she's got something else lined up, or she wants to go and see our grandchildren, we have to first of all pay £20 extra, and then that allows us.
Is that per game, Kieran, or
no?
Per season?
That's for the season. So,
right.
So it's not excessive.
Yeah.
It's just slightly annoying, and then it allows us to transfer her ticket to somebody else, provided they have effectively a transfer season ticket, and that costs them £30 a season. Now, if it's one of my neighbours who says, because I say, Baroness hasn't come to the match today, he's not a Brighton fan, but he'll come along and watch a match.
Yeah.
If he goes to the match, he'll buy a pie, have a couple of pints, we'll have a natter, and the club makes money. But he said, well, I'm not prepared to pay £30 because I'm not that arsed about seeing Brighton. and I absolutely understand that. As a result, quite often, empty seat. Next to me. Now, if the match is sold out, then you can put the tickets up on a ticket exchange. But quite often you'll see a match which isn't quite sold out, and there'll be 100 tickets left for the match, but they're all singles. So people tend to buy pairs of tickets when they go, because they go with a friend. So it's a mess. The away ticket scheme is an absolute car crash.
Right.
We've got some dickheads who support Brighton. Yeah, because we have young. Yeah, and I'm not. This is not gender based. We have young men who act like idiots, and we've noticed that behaviour has deteriorated since COVID. And so
on. Without a doubt.
And I believe we're not unique in that. Yeah. So you have Dickheads Day out, and what the club has now done is they've said, if you transfer a ticket to somebody else, so let's say that I get a couple of tickets with a friend, and then perhaps one of us is ill, or one of us has got a work commitment, or a family member needs assistance with something. If you transfer your ticket to somebody else, you get a 10-match home ban.
Wow.
And a loss of loyalty points. Now, crime and punishment, those are not in alignment. So all that's happening now is that we've got empty seats at away matches because life gets in the way. When you order an away ticket, you'd order it with the view of going to the match. Are some people abusing the system in trying to hoard loyalty points? I think a few are, but frankly, we're now in our 6th season in the Premier League. Yes, we'll sell out all the tickets to season ticket holders for the London games, but if it's Wolves away, or if it's Manchester City, and we're going to the Etihad, you're going to get a shoeing. Tickets tend to go on open sale. But if I then say, well, the tickets are on open sale, I can't make it. Recently we had Wolves away. There was a train strike, so I said, I can't go. It's a train strike, and one of my mates says, well, I'm going up with some mates in a car. I said, any chance of your ticket? I said, well, it's just not worth the aggravation.
Yeah,
because if I don't mind losing a few points, but being denied access to 10 home games, and I'm thinking the club is effectively accusing me of criminalising me as a fan, and I'm going, I'm a 60-year-old teetotal chartered accountant, and in your eyes, I'm some sort of Machiavellian figure that's trying to hoard points and give tickets to ne'er-do-wells, and it's not the case. So I think the scheme's crap.
It's interesting, Kieran, because you say life gets in the way, but what you mean 90% of the time is that Sky gets in the way because games are at quite short notice. It could only be 4 weeks' notice that Sky decides to shift a fixture. In which case, you think, how on earth can the club have the cheek? I know it's only £20 a year, but for other clubs, it's more than that. You shouldn't be charged if you can't go to that game. Secondly, I'm intrigued when you say it's split the fan base, because at Palace, it's split the fan base between people who don't like it and people who hate it. There's no one who really understands it, and partly because the biggest criticism you hear is, well, you introduced electronic tickets at very short notice last season without consultation. So it's your fault. In the old days, everybody knew if you had a ticket, you had an actual ticket. If you couldn't go, you gave it to your mate. He went. He gave it back to you the day after the game. Everyone knew that it went on, but everyone knew that meant people were at the game. A seat that had already been paid for was being taken, and as you say, your mate would buy the beer and pies that you didn't. And it's just now as well, because it's electronic tickets, that's the only reason the club know. People are confused by the fact that the club know that somebody else has got your ticket for an away game, and instead of saying, please don't do that, they ban you for 10 home games. That's not right. That's ludicrous. And
it doesn't work in other industries. So
of course.
I've got a ticket. I've got 2 tickets to see The Cure. At London O2 on Monday week. And it's the day before the rail strike, so the trains are going to be messy. So I would crawl over broken glass to watch The Cure. So I will get there somehow. But the Baroness says, I just can't be arsed with it. So, okay, I will be able to find somebody who wants to go to the gig. And that person isn't a criminal. That somebody is just a fan of The Cure or fancies going to the gig.
Well, you could try offering it to Ali. Because
right.
Inexplicably, Ali loves The Cure. I don't.
How can anybody inexplicably not love The Cure?
Well, because I'll say to you what I say to Ali about The Cure and Elbow. They have 2 songs: the fast one and the slow one. Pretty much
outrageous. This podcast's dead to me from now on.
Of all the things that we've bickered about on and off air, and finally I've pushed you over the edge with The Cure. I would go with you, Kieran, except I'm going to the theatre that night. I'm going to see Orlando. But otherwise, I would go with you and ruin it for you.
I think I've got a date with your wife. By the sounds of it.
Well, as long as you put her in a cab afterwards, that's fine.
Get out of the trenches of tedious tasks like managing order fulfillment and start growing your business with ShipStation. They'll help increase profitability by automating your workflow with their simple, easy-to-use dashboard. With it, you can pretty much do everything you need to quickly and easily. Update order information, print labels, compare rates, optimize shipments, and even set up automatic delivery notifications. And it doesn't matter where you sell. Amazon, Etsy, eBay, Shopify, ShipStation can integrate pretty much anywhere online. Another great thing about ShipStation? They can help reduce costs with industry-leading discounted rates from some of the biggest mail carriers. You might even be able to get up to 89% off USPS and UPS rates. So, make this year your most profitable one yet. Sign up for your free 30-day trial at ShipStation.com and use the code Spotify. That's ShipStation.com with the code Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business. Want to advance your career or switch fields? An MBA from Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business can help. Earn your degree from a top-ranked business school with a thought-provoking curriculum, one-on-one leadership coaching, support from experienced career counselors, and full-time, online hybrid, and accelerated MBA formats. Join the intelligent future. Visit cmu.edu/Tepper to learn more.
Our next question comes from Nick Andrews Govain. And I'm keen to hear your answer on this, Kieran, because I was looking into this recently for a different project. And Nick says, I'm intrigued by the finances surrounding London City Lionesses. They no longer have a male partner club. They used to be part of Millwall's setup and seem to be posting large amounts of losses in a league that doesn't have much income. What do you make of their figures? And I think the Lionesses, London City Lionesses, along with Durham and Lewis, are the only three clubs in the top two women's divisions that are not linked to male clubs. I think they're playing down at Dartford now, but it's an interesting one because they do seem to be losing a lot of money every week.
Yes, and I think this was an issue between the Lionesses and Millwall. My understanding is there was a bit of a fractious split between the two organisations because the Lionesses wanted to lose a lot of money and Millwall didn't want them to lose a lot of money.
Right.
So therefore, they decided to go their separate ways. So London City Lionesses, you're absolutely right. They're playing at Dartford. I think they're the only full-time professional team as far as the championship is concerned, and they're top of the table. So congratulations for that. And you could say that justifies. They say that on the back of the split with Millwall, they can now go into commercial partners and schools and so on and say, no one hates us. We do care.
Yeah.
And therefore they claim that on the back of that, they're getting additional funding and so on. My understanding is that they appear to be organised and funded by a company called SETL Limited, which has only been set up in 2019 and which seems to be involved in some form of IT system stroke blockchain organisation. But this company's only been running for a few years. Season ticket at Dartford, £75. I think they're currently advertising matches for £5 each. So go along and watch them because they're doing really well. And I'm all for that. But in terms of Nick's question, it's a loss making business. You cannot break even if you're charging a £5 a match and you're getting crowds of 200 to 300. It's the numbers simply don't add up. So it is a case of finding a benefactor who's going to underwrite those losses, and you then got to hope that benefactor continues that level of commitment going forwards.
Ali's just wandered into the kitchen with her headphones on and a very sad look on her face. So I can only assume she's listening to The Cure.
Is it probably a slow one?
What is it? Yeah, there's a 70% chance it'll be a slow one about how sad he is, and a 30% chance it'll be a fast one about how sad he is. And what a terrible Thursday night he had. You say, Kieran, that the Lionesses wanted to lose money. Do you mean they were prepared to lose money rather than they wanted to lose money?
Yeah, I think that the budget that they put forward was a loss-making budget, and Millwall's main team. Millwall lose around about £10 million a year. So their owner, the focus is to try to get Millwall into the playoffs, into the Premier League. And I think the decision was made that we cannot afford to increase the level of losses, or as far as the Millwall Lionesses were concerned. And if that's the way that you feel, and there's I think there was clearly some level of disagreement between both parties, that it's best to go our separate ways.
Now, Zach Dalton has a question about something that's been mentioned a couple of times during the World Cup, every time Spain play, basically. And Zach says, I've noticed that over this past season, Barcelona have put €1 billion release clauses in players' contracts, such as Gavi, Pedri and Ansu Fati. What is the reason for this? Surely no matter how good these players get, it will never make sense for anyone else to spend €1 billion on one player, especially with the football market not having much further to go till it reaches its ceiling. If Barcelona don't plan on ever selling these players, why not just refuse to sell them at any price and leave out an official buyout clause? Is there a financial reason for this I'm missing? Now, I know we discussed the concept of release clauses recently, but the fact that Barcelona have set theirs so high is a cause of controversy, isn't it?
I don't think there's a financial justification for it.
Oh, right.
This is public relations.
Oh,
this is Barcelona saying, we've lost Messi. We've had a bit of kerfuffle in terms of our finances, but we've found these really good players like Gavi, Pedri, and Fati, and they are so good. We ain't going to give up. We're not going to give them away for peanuts. We've set a release clause of $1 billion. Now, a release clause of $1 billion. What that means is that the player is allowed to talk to another club.
Yeah.
There is nothing to stop another club coming in for one of those players and say, we'll bid 150 million for one of them. And Barcelona says, yeah, okay, under those circumstances, although we have considered it, and we will now allow you to speak to the player. So it's there to make to make Barcelona fans feel that they're in their big boy pants, and they're supporting a club that will not have to accept anything below £1 billion. £1 billion euro. I think Barcelona did feel slightly aggrieved in relation to Neymar, because when they had Neymar's release clause, which was I think €220 million, they thought, well, we set it so high, it was effectively double the price of any player at the time. Nobody will pay it, and then PSG went down the back of their Qatari-shaped sofa and found the small change as far as they were concerned. So I think the club is it's sort of trying to protect itself, but this is far more to say we've got 3 €1 billion players. Look at us; we're now back as a major team in the Europa League, I believe.
Well, it's Schadenfreude doesn't suit you, Kieran. Really, although that if Robert Smith of The Cure was a Barcelona fan, that would be his next sad song. We're in the Europa League. I'm a better singer than he is. Amazing. The €1 billion price tag is obviously, it's only one club they're trying to deter, and that is PSG, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if it is a PR exercise, that can backfire on them, because if it turns out that in a season's time or 2 seasons' time, PSG say, okay, we'll pay you 200 million for Ansu Fati, and Barcelona say yes, then their fans are going to say, hang on a second, you said he's worth $1 billion. Why are we caving in to PSG when, technically we are the biggest club in Europe and the world, as they think of themselves?
You're absolutely right. But in the world of the Barcelona boardroom, where presidents are elected by members, all that you're concerned about is the next public relations exercise, the next manifesto, ludicrous claim. And Barcelona's president's manifestos are the reason why they've gotten into this mess where they're in at present.
That's interesting. Our penultimate question, Kieran, comes from Lewis Sullivan. And Lewis says that you said, Kieran, a few weeks ago that Man City pay their player bonuses in club incentives rather than individual bonuses. As a frustrated Southampton fan, I'd like to know if clubs in the mid to lower end of the table pay their players bonuses for finishing higher in the table, as the club itself gets extra money for finishing higher.
In the main, this is absolutely the case. especially, remember, we've now moved to the 5 substitute model in the Premier League. So you might be a 70-minute player, but you are still an integral part of the squad. As far from a club's point of view, I think we're now talking around about £2.4 million per place in terms of where you finish in the Premier League, and I think practically every contract for the mid to lower places is graded in that way, and there are huge differences between 18th and 17th. Because avoiding relegation clauses are quite significant. And remember, I know we've spoken about this. Remember when Tony Pulis came into Palace? He was on 2.5 million.
Yeah.
If Palace avoided relegation, that is by far the biggest element of a bonus scheme as far as the smaller clubs are concerned.
Okay. Nick Phillips has our last question, and Nick says, with American college football generating huge revenue, crowds and interest, could this type of system work with the academy teams of the UK, as the youth leagues here do not nearly generate the buzz that similar systems generate in the United States? I think this is a very interesting question, Kieran, because certainly in terms of American football, the college game is absolutely huge. But is that just a reflection on the fact that the country is absolutely huge and most people can't afford or haven't got an NFL team near them?
I think that's certainly, you're absolutely right. It's certainly a contributory factor. And remember, in the NFL, there's only 18 games a season. Whereas we might have 4 or 5 3 p.m. matches, taking place simultaneously. American football and American sports in general try to split things up as much as they can to maximize TV revenues. I went to Stanford in California a few years ago to give a talk, and they said, would you like to see our sports facilities? And Liverpool University sports facilities, they're great. They're fantastic. And then I saw this, and I thought, Jesus Christ! We're talking about a 40,000 capacity stadium. And the culture of US sport at college is very different to what we have here in the UK, because we do not. We do not give places to graduates on the basis of how good they are at football or table tennis or swimming. It is done on academic ability. Whereas in the States, the sports scholarship, if you are a promising player, you will be picked up by a college and offered by university there and effectively offered an education where attending class is, I'm not saying it's optional, but it's your university coach is the most important person in your university existence. So it is very different. Remember that college sports are part of a much broader entity, in the sense that in US sports franchises you've got the draft system as well. So we have football academies here in the UK. In the US, the football academy is replaced by the college sports system. And when you read about these, the universities make an absolute fortune from this, because they've got 40,000 people turning up. You've got everybody wearing the university colours. You've got big TV deals. The players are unpaid. The players are effectively amateurs.
Yeah.
So it's I know that many of them are getting their education paid for, which in the States is very, very expensive. But if you're at the age of 19 and NFL style sports are pretty physical, you could be ruined for life. We've seen issues in terms of heading the ball. We've seen recently that the Scottish FA have said the day before and the day after a match you shouldn't have any heading practice. Because of the impact upon people's brains of heading the ball. Well, you put that into an American sport, which involves running headlong into each other, and you can see the potential implications there. So you could end up with severe injuries at an early age, and then you're wrecked for life, and you've been unpaid for this.
one of my younger cousins, hello Charlie, was offered a swimming scholarship by an American university.
Oh wow!
He's now in the third year. So, and they've located him here, scouted him here, and offered him. And so he's getting a fantastic education. And I'm sure Charlie won't mind me saying that he went out as a boy, and he's come back several times as a man. But it's fantastic. But the way he describes the facilities there is basically you've got Olympic style facilities at this college. And I think you touched on one of the reasons why college football is so popular and gets such huge crowds. It's partly because that's where the NFL, it's virtually the only place the NFL get their players from. So basically what you're doing is watching next year's or 2 years' time's huge NFL stars in the last year of their college career. Which in the same way here, when you go and see Palace youngsters, whether it's the 21-year-olds or the 18-year-olds or the 16-year-olds, you love watching them, but there's no guarantee that any of them will ever play for Palace at a senior level. So there isn't that same investment that you're going to get, I think, with plus, of course, Americans. It's a huge country. They're very. I don't want to use the word proud because we've already said that about the Scots and the Welsh, but they are very proud of their locality, their town, and their city as well. So, and the college is the sort of substitute proper NFL team, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I really halfway through that sentence, I realised I didn't have a way of ending it, so I just carried on in the hope there might be a punchline. That's why I'm not asked to do improv. Just in case you missed this news on Thursday's pod, I'm afraid that our next live show at Plymouth Argyle's home park on Tuesday the 13th of December has had to be moved to early next year. We'll let you know the new date as soon as it's been agreed, but it looks like it's going to be the third week of March. We will confirm that as soon as we can. We hope everyone who's bought a ticket can make it, but if you can't, don't forget the club has confirmed you will be able to get a full refund. And the first ever Price of Football replica shirt is available to pre-order from 10 o'clock, drum roll, today, Monday, December the 5th. We'll only make as many shirts as we get orders, so make sure you pre-order yours today. The shirts are available in adults and kids sizes, and all the profit will go to Gamble Aware, so it's a good cause too. Find the link to our online store, the Price of Football Twitter feed, or on priceoffootball.com. And for those of you who want to know why we are so keen to help Gamble Aware, I can't recommend the latest offering by Cassette Boy enough. It's a brilliant 1-minute video about the government and sports relationship with gambling. You can find that on, I think it's just at Cassette Boy. It's very, very good and will explain a lot of things that take Kieran and I a whole year to explain in a minute. Thank you to everyone who's donated to the pod via our Patreon page, which includes Stephen Fitzjohn, Roger Baldry, Carolyn Hupton, Simon Lester, Tom Russell, Dominic Kammerman, Jacinta Hindley, Chris Hartley, Michael Madden-Slater and David Lee. If you'd like to join them and kindly make a small monthly contribution to our pod, then please go to patreon.com/priceoffootball. And if you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. We will be back on Thursday for our usual news roundup. And in the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, thanks for everybody at Patreon for donating to the show. It's very, very kind of you, and you can do that for as little as £1 a month as well. But if you want to support the show in another way, you can help us in the charts. You can help us through the world of algorithms, and you do that by going onto your podcast app and giving us a review. And I don't think you even have to write anything. You can just give us a number of stars, because it is the number of stars that matter. 5 stars always helps. But in terms of the narrative, write whatever you want. You could even say you would rather have the show presented by Rigobert Song and Pete Tong, and it wouldn't bother us.
I don't know why I laugh so much when you say the word algorithm, Kieran. I think it's because you sound like a 1970s BBC science reporter. One day we'll all live in a world of algorithms. We'll have jet
I used to love Tomorrow's World.
That was a great programme, wasn't it? Yeah. One day we'll live in a world where The Cure have a happy song that we can all listen to. Bye, everybody.
Oh. Bye.
The Price of Football. The price of football.